That was very moving. It was like, this is your life, and I'm just really proud to know you before you were popular, and I think on this day of days, I think it is worth quoting Dustin Lance Black's Oscar speech of a few years ago. He said at the end of it, but most of all, if Harvey Milk had not been taken from us 30 years ago, I think he'd want me to say to all of the gay and lesbian kids out there tonight who have been told that they are less than by their churches or by their government or by their families, that you are beautiful, wonderful creatures of value, and that no matter what anyone tells you, God does love you, and that very soon, I promise you, you will have equal rights federally across this great nation of ours. That's what you said. And Christopher and I were sitting at home in our pajamas, and we were crying, and we were saying, that's Lance? Wow. You grew up pretty good. And on today, North Carolina notwithstanding, with the president coming out and I think revealing who he truly is, and us feeling, I hope, one step closer to true equality, I have to say thank you, Lance, for everything you've done with the American Foundation for Equal Rights and against Prop 8, because it's inspired me to stay more involved and to not forget the struggle. Also, this is one of those amazing moments in your life when you truly feel like, something extraordinary is happening. So I just want to say thank you to the board of Liberty Hill for this recognition. There's so many folks, when I heard who had been given this award previously, Walter Mosley, Harry Belafonte, Susan Sarandon, Oliver Stone. I thought, that's some muckrakers. That's a lot of muck that was raked by those folks. And I was really surprised to be included in that company. And to tonight's other honorees, Wendy Chang, who is just a true delight, and Manuel Pastor. The two of you together are it's so what Liberty Hill is about. Inspired, caring philanthropy, the use of the study of what's happening societally to really help us to get from one place to another. It really touched me, and I really know that you're making a difference. And to Coffee and Danny Fisk and all the hardworking people on the staff that put these things together. I've been involved in putting these things together right in this room from time to time, and it ain't easy, so I thank you. Abdul, for that impressive video. Abdul Abbott is now becoming my personal editor. He's gonna put together, my amazing stuff. Jono, my assistant, who handles so much, it's just, there's too many people to thank, so let me get down to the meat of it. John Manulis and Liz Heller, okay. You know them, they've been Liberty Hill supporters for some time. I went to college with John. He directed me in plays and directed plays that I wrote. And they called me to say, would you like to receive the Upton Sinclair Award? And I was extremely reluctant. And I don't seem, I know, like the kind of person who's reluctant to get an award, because it seems like, yeah, another Chosky, I'll take that shit. Because, everyone loves to be acknowledged and loved. It's very important. But my first response is that their acknowledgement was misplaced. And I really think the generous applause that I heard is always welcome and lovely, but it is not really for me. It's really for the people upon whose shoulders I stand today. When Lance went through some of my life, you got an inkling of it, but the first cheers, instead of for me, should really go to my original family. I'm one of 7 kids with 2 parents who worked 2 jobs. That, my father was a foreman, my mother worked in a glass factory. Just like Wendy, it took a while to be as fabulous as I am today. I'm telling you. Thanks to John Roberts, though, I did learn how to pass. With that in mind, also the clapping, it seems to be, that school I went to called the Latimer School only had 100 students. So I really, John was in the class ahead of me, and I didn't realize that he would actually be attempting to ruin my life with virtually every decision at this point. I just thought, he was a precocious, obviously intellectual, irritating fuss budget. But, the school helped me blossom and added to my fabulousness. If you really want to applaud, you can applaud my friends from college, many of whom are here. And I was in college a long time ago. And there's a whole table of people that I love from college. It's unbelievable. I mean, you could make the rooftops rattle in this place if you applaud all the folks who gave me a shot to direct. I mean, my directing looks very good, but it's like nowhere without having John Wells and Aaron Sorkin and Kurt Sutter and some of the best writers in television giving me the kinds of things to do. Rodrigo Garcia comes to mind. If without them, I literally, the reel you would have seen would have been one episode of Diagnosis Murder and the Vampire Diaries, okay? And you would have gone, he's getting the award? That's kind of curious. I also want to thank all my friends at HBO. There's a whole table of Fox people. There's Sony here. There's friends from IATSE and the DGA, which I'm a board member, and a great table of my agents from Paradigm. Thank you all for coming and supporting me. It really means a lot. But I tell you, the house could come down if you really wanted to recognize my family of choice. Now, Lance talked a little bit about them. I have an exhausted husband of 4 years, Christopher, who, if you have two boys in your house who are one is 9 and one is 7, you have an idea, you have a concept of what he's going through. I could think of no better person to spend my life with, and I am particularly happy that today I feel, thank you to that community organizer, come president, Mr. Obama, that I feel one step closer to the possibility that we'll be recognized as a married couple throughout the United States. And then, I can't believe it, it's almost 9 o'clock and my two sons are still awake. Cyrus and William, thank you. Thank you for teaching me how to care again. Because when September 11th came, and Christopher and I, actually September 9th, were in Boston and looked at each other and said, why are we flying back? I had done a play that was being done in Boston, and it was, why are we flying back on the morning of the 11th? That's a Tuesday morning. The play's dark on Monday. You know, it's Sunday. Why don't we just go back on Monday night? So we changed our flight from Flight 11 to Flight 10, which left Monday night. And by the time we got home, it was really late. You know, that late flight coming from the East Coast. And everyone thinks we're still on Flight 11. The theater, my family who had been there, everyone. So people are calling, and you know, we go, no, we're home, we're back, and it's okay. And literally, you know, we're sort of in shock, because all of us were in shock just watching that happen, but just thinking that, you know, a couple of days earlier, we had a ticket and we would have been incinerated by Muhammad Atta, because that was his first flight, and obviously our lives would have been over then, made us sort of start to look at everything that we've done and everything that we could do. And it's made us reevaluate that. And that led to the adoption of these children. And although I don't think I can stand anymore, it's certainly been a life changer. Now, after you've done all that slamming and shouting and recognizing, which I deeply appreciate, you would have missed the family members that I think are most deserving of recognition tonight, and that is all of you. You probably didn't come here because you just can't stay away from the Beverly Hilton cuisine, although the chicken was lovely. You probably came because you know in your hearts and minds that there's an interconnection of people in Los Angeles County, that we're not actually this separate sort of warring tribal factions, that we're disparate, interconnected people in a single world, and that every member of that family is dependent on every other member of the family to survive. So when you support the Liberty Hill family, and I believe by your presence, whether you paid for your ticket or not, by being here and by learning about the organization, you become a family member. I think we all learn that, you know, we all talk different, we all look different, but we are all profoundly the same. And I was talking to Coffee a little bit earlier this week, and, you know, she reminded me that, you know, there are black brothers with high school diplomas, she said, are 66% unemployed. So that's 2/3 of African American men with high school diplomas are 66% unemployed. And I think, for one, that's a family problem. That's a problem here in our family. When gay and lesbian brothers and sisters are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than heterosexuals, is that maybe a family problem? Is that something happening in society that maybe we could address on a case-by-case basis? And then more amazingly, 26% of the brothers and sisters that live in poverty here in LA County now. That's 26%, that's a quarter. That's like 1 out of 4 live in poverty. And I believe that charity is not gonna help them. What's gonna help them is help from a family member. And that's why I think it's nice to get the awards, but the awards end up really being about you. Family problems have family solutions. So if you're within the sound of my voice, and I think most of you are, you've contributed tonight. You've already contributed along with that. Great, I gotta steal that gimmick of that phone thing because that was magnificent. But even if you have just contributed by being here and feeling, already you're feeding someone's soul, you're healing someone's pain, and you're starting that flame of flickering hope. I don't know. When we brought these children, one from foster care and one shortly after he was born, into our home and became completely responsible for their lives, I recognize that that is the best personal decision that I could make. And I think you're doing something very similar. When you're supporting Liberty Hill, you're not just supporting another charity, another organization, another chicken dinner. You're embracing the others. You're embracing the nobodies. You're embracing the people who are different and separate and apart, and you are giving them worth and dignity and hope. So, like a shiny black mirror, I reflect all this glow back onto you. Each and every one of you is a hero in my family tonight, and I can only hope that you'll continue to join me on this Liberty Hill journey. There's a lot of muck to be raked, and I will enjoy mucking or raking it with you. Finally, in closing, I'm not a super religious person. I mean, I think of myself as a spiritual person, and fortunately I'm sitting at a table with the great Tori Osborne and Sheila Kuehl, which gives me a glow of religiosity that just I'm sure permeates everything I do for at least the next 20 minutes. But I was thinking of my first bat mitzvah, which was 2 weeks ago. I'd never been to one before, and I thought I was invited by my manager. His daughter was being bat mitzvahed, and I thought, well, I'd love to see what happens there, so I went. And I was so moved by it. I mean, the embrace of family, I didn't, understand exactly all the traditions of it, but I was just moved by the event itself. And one thing in particular, I remember jotting it down, then I searched on the internet, was a prayer that was read. That I said, that reminds me of Liberty Hill. So I will end with that. And the prayer, which some of you will probably recognize, goes, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, our soul profound enough to cover the earth, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and grave despair. So thank you very much for this recognition, and please applaud yourselves. Thank you.